Um, Welcome everyone to our Knowledge Power Days. My name is Kim and I will guide you through this webinar today. But before we start, I have some informations for you. We have disabled microphones and cameras, so if you should have any questions, please use the Q&A button below. We try to answer all your questions during the webinar at the end in the Q&A session. And if there should some questions left, we will answer them right after the webinar via email. We will record this webinar and we will send you the recording as well as the presentation latest at the beginning of next week. Okay, so we are very happy to have two experts with us today. First, it's Dr. Ralf Strauss. He is, among other things, managing partner of the Marketing Tech Lab and president of the German Marketing Association. He's also editor of numerous publications. So welcome, Ralf. And then we have with us today Thomas Mavrodes. He has worked for Dun Bradstreet in various functions since 2006. Currently, he's leading the go-to-market team for sales and marketing solutions in Central Europe region. So I would say welcome you two, and please, the stage is yours. Have fun.
Thank you very much. Ralf, would you like to start?
Yes, I'm more than happy to do. Let me just share my screen. So first of all, thanks also to Kim and Thomas for the kind invitation. You see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. So how data-driven company looks like. Thanks to all the bunch of partners, all including Dun Bradstreet, we are happy to conduct the Marketing Tech Monitor, as Kim already mentioned, since 2019. So what I'm trying to do is just pick out a couple of examples of the results of the Marketing Tech Monitor, and then furthermore, probably throw the candlestick over to you, Thomas, for further discussions on how to best get it realized and resolved. Shortly about myself, I've been working in large corporate organizations, I guess, for 20 years, doing projects all over the place, and the majority of time I spent with SAP, and then later working with Volkswagen Group as leading the digital transformation of sales and marketing. And today, as Kim has been saying, a bunch of companies here in Hamburg, and I'm president of the German Marketing Association, as well as chairman of the board of the European Marketing Confederations, where something like 72 or 73,000 marketing professionals in Europe are gathered at the associations. And based on this, what we always got is feedback, well, what is the best way to go into marketing and into data-driven marketing? So it was the starting point in 2019, based on a bunch of workshops where we started the Marketing Tech Monitor. So what is the objective of the Marketing Tech Monitor is not just to have some sort of product brochure or something like that, but really giving some sort of normative direction. If you're looking for data management, how should I best do it? If you're looking for a CDP, if you're looking for marketing automation, so what are best cases, best practices, also including case studies like from Volkswagen, Lufthansa, Coop in Switzerland, and other companies. So really some sort of, how would you phrase it, a compendium to say, how shall I do this? We do have the Via Dolorosa, as I always say, to go into data-driven marketing. What we're trying to do is present some sort of a lighthouse, a reference point to say, here's the Bible, how to do it properly. So we've done it for the last 4 years, and I always try to keep the report pretty short, but at the end, also this year, we ended up with 185 pages because the number of topics from CRM to ID management to data architectures is so broad that we need to spend some pages on that every time. And what have we done? Please excuse, some of the charts are half German, half English. Without empirical survey, new euphoria. This is always my credo. We asked 1,500 CMOs, head of marketing, head of data, head of analytics, head of online marketing across the DACH region, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and almost 57% of them says they are head of marketing or CMO. And out of this, we generated 295 full interviews of fully completed questionnaires. Plus, in addition, we conducted 30 one-on-one interviews. In terms of really getting a comprehensive overview, what is happening in the market when it comes to marketing tech and the migration, the path into a data-driven marketing, which is always interesting to see, in particular if you have not only the survey, but all the one-on-one interviews, what people really say, where they tell you where they are struggling. Sometimes those questions which you cannot ping out of just a quantitative survey. So number one is they're all looking for getting their data in place. And data in place means getting everything together. Doing the data mapping, you have on-site behavioral data, first-party online data, second and third-party data, you have product brand intent, you have transactional data, loyalty management data out of CRM, you have the shopping history, you have the intent, you have second-party corporations, content sites, visitors. So the whole objective of all those companies pretty much getting all the data points together. And then all the building some audiences, like you have segment for premium wines, frequent shoppers, a segment red wine buyers, or what the heck ever. The interesting part for us is always to ask, so we've been discussing, Thomas, if I look at the two of us, I guess we've been discussing under CRM scenarios, we have been discussing the needs, the requirement to consolidate data for the last 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, I'm not sure. And
definitely, as long as I'm working for the industry, definitely yes. Yeah.
Yes. And the interesting part is, Thomas, really, this is nothing new. Yeah. And my question is, now we've been discussing CRM scenarios for 25, 30 years. How far are you in terms of consolidation of your data? Nothing new. This is not new. This has nothing to do in general with marketing tech, but just a sort of managing your underlying data structures. Only 20 to 25% of companies state that they have already a well-organized data structure underneath. 20 to 25%. Nothing more. This means, on the opposite, more than 70 up to 80% of companies are still struggling with it. We have had workshops, for example, in the automotive industry. And they say, well, it's good, but we as an automotive manufacturer, we don't have the data. Our retailers do have the data. We don't know. If Thomas Mavroudis has been driving an Audi for the last 20 years, at least Audi Ingolstadt doesn't know Thomas Mavroudis because the data belongs to the dealer. So we need to change then our legal structures, number one. Number two is, if I look in the retail organizations, pretty often the data is just in the country, and within the countries, the data is distributed across 2, 3, 4, 5 different data banks. You will have no chance to get the data together. So also, what is a good example? Travel and transport, airline industry, 24 different databases which need to get consolidated. Personalized information, anonymous information from cookie tracking, as well as second-party data from your retail for your sales channel organization. And the major challenge is, how do I get all these data together? And honestly, also the feedback we always got is, when we get started with some MarTech projects, they think, well, we have some sort of nice tools and everything is fluffy puffy. But my mother would have said, boy, you need to do your homework first. Yeah, so there's no way to escape. We need to clean up our data structures. And if we organize them in a data lake or somewhere else or a data warehouse, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I need to get my arms around a data model and how to consolidate, aggregate, and clean up my data. Based on this, our recommendation is you should have some sort of data strategy, starting with the corporate objectives, definition of customer touchpoints and ideas, then look for status quo. What is it? Which sort of KPIs you're trying to track? How do you want to activate the data? You're not collecting data just for the sake of data collection, but how do you want to activate it later? What are the use cases? Then define some sort of top-down data strategy, define some sort of operating model with customer data management, lifecycle management, integration scenarios, ID management and architectures and platforms, and prioritization of action spheres, and step-by-step do it once again. The reason why I've been choosing this sort of picture is yes, we have to do it once, but this might also be ending up in iteration circles from time to time. We need to go back to the data strategy and say, have channels been changing, or have architectures being changing. So I need to do it probably several times. But the common denominator is we need to get our arms around a data strategy. How do we use data? How do we want to activate data? What are the platforms we are trying to do? And what are the use cases? And pretty often what we see is that companies are starting to collecting data and talk about CDP and data management and data-driven marketing. But the underlying data strategy is not clear. Why are you doing this? How do you want to use them? And which sort of activation are you trying to pursue? Plus, all in combination with this is how should the future ID management look like? ID management across different channels, online as well as offline. It's not clear. In order for the basis and for later for have some sort of subsequent optimization. So pretty often you just get started at data aggregation and review. So just campaign performance, stuff like that, historical performance and ROIs. But the more people are collecting data, the more upwards they're trying to get into marketing mix modeling optimization. If it's then just marketing mix modeling in terms of optimization of my interaction channels and or price modeling, for example. But data lays the basis for a later optimization. But first, as I said, we need to get the data in our hands and consolidate the data in the best way which is possible. Pretty awkward. So the idea is basically, and we will not be able to get it changed, is you need to get started on the first level on the business strategy. Then over planning and steering, drill it down to the application layer and have one layer for sure, which is everything around data management and unification. So it's not one thing we might be able to do, but we always have I call it the magic cube, yeah? Where we all have from business strategy down to data management and system infrastructures. All these levels need to be coordinated. For example, coming back to marketing mix modeling, it doesn't help me if I start marketing mix modeling if I have no idea about planning and steering and which sort of metrics and KPIs I'm trying to optimize. Doesn't make sense. And sometimes, for example, in the airline industry, it's not an easy task. You cannot just say we're trying to maximize the number of business seats being sold, but normally it's a more differentiated KPIs and KPI framework you're driving, including processes, organization, and basically also the building of applications underneath in terms of collecting the data and building up some sort of constant data feed. Last chart from my side, we all ask, what is the thing which hinders you most? So we all do understand, we need to aggregate data, we're looking for data, we're looking for good and qualitative high data platforms, infrastructures. What is the thing you're missing the most? It's the quantity and quality of experienced project managers and also managing the interface between IT and the business side. So again, coming back to my mother, she would have said, darling, do your homework first. So we're just looking for experienced project managers and interface between IT and business, and also integration scenarios. The point is, and also out of the interviews, all companies come back and say, if we do not have experienced project managers in place, if we do not have the right project set up with experienced guys being there, I always call it the go-to man or go-to woman. So people who really know, subject matter experts, know their processes and data structures in detail. We should not start any project. So it's pretty much a business-driven perspective, and we need to have the subject matter experts in place. And last statement, Thomas, from my side on that is, if we do not have enough detail at hand in terms of managing the data strategy and getting all the data at hand, we will fail all in the operative projects. So my strong recommendation is always, we need to look at the project setup. It's not a discussion or a pitch on tools, but more sort of, how do I get it evolved and implemented within sometimes pretty complex organizations? So that's it from my side, Thomas.
Yeah.
I'll just stick over to you.
Thank you very much, Ralph. And that's exactly referring what you have said. So companies usually have a lot of data points, data silos, and they want to consolidate the data, and they're really struggling how to do this. And because the one thing is to have the data somewhere to consolidate, but from my experience I had in the past doing projects is that companies are really struggling how to find the right, let's say, golden record. That's how I would call it. Yeah, to consolidate the data to really start activating the value of the data we are having. And what I would like to share is the following. Give me 1 second. This one. Yeah, what I would like to share is that you were referring to a data strategy. Yeah, to derive a data strategy, you have, of course, to understand your data, what you have said. Yeah, you have to understand your data and get a really single view on what you have in the data. You need to combine all the data points we are having with, in the ideal case, with a reference database, which gives you really the right thing. I will show you in a couple of minutes also some examples what I mean to show you the right golden record about that. Once you're having the data knowledge, yeah, this is the basis to getting really the data knowledge. What are my data talking about, and what is the data foundation? Then, of course, you have to activate the data, to understand, to analyze the data, and to see what kind of value I have the data. If I'm able to do this, yeah, then at the end I'm able to activate, engage with the clients I would like to approach. So the basis for me, and I think you've already said, 20% of the companies are knowing about the data, can activate the data. The basis is really the understanding of the data, to get out the insights in the data, and then to derive the strategy, what you would like to do with your data. When you are able to do this, then of course at the end you will be the one who will gain the value and also the success to be data driven. And by saying this, data, it's not only data. Most of the times I was also asked, what is more important? Is the data more important, or is the tech more important? So, and I say tech can't live without data, yeah, and data can't live without tech. So it's for me an overall approach to say it has to be really everything in place to really activate the data, and also to be really consistent in what we are doing. So really it's a combination between the tech environment and the data environment, and it needs to be also involve the whole organization if you want to do activation of the data and drive the businesses more on a database, or data, what I'm saying. And what I would also like to mention is that I've said this at the beginning of my slides. Yeah, we need to have a clear reference database to really understand the value of the data. And of course, coming to our assets as Dun Bradstreet, what we are having is that we are the one company who can bring you that value. Yeah? You can bring the value and get the insights of the data. What we are offering to our clients is definitely the largest commercial B2B database. You see here that we are having more than 420 million companies in the database, which you can directly link with the information you have in your CRM system. Yeah, you can directly link with the systems you are using to really understand what you're having. But to have the information about companies is not everything. Yeah, but we have also information about contacts. Who are the persons who are responsible in the companies? Yeah, in which levels? So because not everyone is responsible for everything. Of course, we have to identify the right person, and we have, of course, also the right channels how to activate the different persons. And we are also having additional information which can be used, especially in the sales and marketing area and the activation area, that to understand which companies are currently in the market, which companies could be in the market, and how we can activate the market. maybe a bit of background, how we are doing this. Yeah, when we're talking about data consolidation, data activation, we are doing this based on our DUNS number. I don't know whom the DUNS number is a known term, but the DUNS number is a so-called fingerprint to every company we are having in our database. So once the right company has been identified, yeah, you can assign this DUNS number to every information you have in your systems, and you can be really sure, yeah, really sure that the data, the consolidation of the data is always on the right entity. And this is something which many companies are missing when they are talking about data strategies, data consolidation, and also data activation. The DUNS number is a unique number, which is really assigned only once in the life of a company. So this means if a company from some point of time goes out of business, this DUNS number won't be assigned to another company. So you can be sure that every information you have in your CRM system or other systems is exactly assigned to this information. And of course, any transactional data you are having, any interactional data you are having with this kind of companies, you can directly link and also do the right insights out of that. Just to showing and to giving you what the value is of this DUNS number. So we see on the left-hand side 3 different companies. One is called ABC, one is called Alpha Plastics, one is called Charles Smith. Coming to what you said, data, a lot of data, but for someone who's not working in the data industry, with these 3 companies would be 3 different companies. But by using and assigning the information Dun Bradstreet can offer, you will see that these companies you have in your system is one company. Why? Because the legal name is the ABC, the trade style name is Alpha Plastics, and Charles Smith is the CEO or the president of the company. So you see, maybe in your system you have 3 different interactions based on the information you collected, but in reality, it's really one company. So what does this mean in terms of how you can improve your data health? Yeah, you can improve your data health by standardizing also your onboarding processes. So you have to take care, you need to take care that although on the onboarding process, you have the right data and to start working with the right data. So if you're talking about data strategy, of course, you have existing data, which has to be managed. But for the data you will be onboarding, from the point you will start working with data, you have to think about the standardization of the processes. And once, of course, you are having the right onboarding data, you have to keep, or you have to take care that the data you are using is always up to date. So because our experience is that many companies change location, change names, and this goes very fast. And you need, as someone who's working with data, to take care that you are always working with up-to-date data, which of course leads to, you have to avoid duplicates. You saw the example. And once you are able and you have done this kind of pre-work, then of course you can do what you want with your data. So the basis, the foundation is definitely to clean and have enriched data and connect all the relevant information you have in your systems and have the 360-degree view on the accounts you are having. So once you are having this, then you can derive out the insights, what I said. Yeah, you can do the segmentation. You can see, okay, which segments I'm really strong, which segments I'm not strong, which segments I would like to acquire, which are my best fitting clients or leads, what I'm having. Once I have done this, which is the basis, then, sorry, someone called me, then, of course, you can reach out in the market, yeah, and start activating, penetrating the right companies. But the basis is really the segmentation. And with the engagement, what meaning by the engagement is that once you activate and you interact with clients, of course, there are some reactions. Some reactions on your penetration. And then you have, of course, to be able to identify who is reacting to your interaction. And one of the examples could be to be also able to identify who has visited the website, your website. Is this company really in one of the segmentations, or was it by default that he visited? So, and if you know, and you have the insight that the visitor is relevant, then of course you have to prioritize and to do actionable business. So by saying that, I would like also here to stop my presentation part, that really the basis is to have the master data foundation clear. Once you are having this, then you can do all the strategy, like Ralph has said, together, of course, with the right project management and the project management skills. But for me, the combination between right data and also right tech stack is the state of the art. We have to go.
Super. Thomas, probably may I ask a question?
Sure.
From your perspective, although you've been referring to bunches of projects within Dun Bradstreet, what is it where companies are struggling the most? Is it not having a clear data strategy, or is it data operational management? I don't know how to tackle this issue. Is it more lack in skills and competencies, or is it the feedback I've gotten sometimes, nobody is rewarding me for that? Cleaning up the whole data enchilada, I will not get a bigger bonus because everybody will just say, this is your task anyway, so just do it. What is the point? We talked earlier about that for the last 25, 30 years, the problem is still not really being resolved.
I think the problem is, the other way around. I think most of the companies, when we're thinking about the digital transformation or digital wave, have understood that they have to work with data. Definitely. And by saying that doesn't mean that they know how to do that. That's the problem. That's the problem. So I think that really the thing is, what is my data strategy? What do I want to achieve when I'm saying I want to work with data? This is really the key point. And this is a strategic decision which has to be done really on a high C-level management. And once you have these defined, you have the support from C-level, and then you can drive it out of the company. And then, of course, companies, and the second thing is they are struggling in operationalize the data. So they don't know how to activate, how to read the data. That's really the problem. Now we're coming more and more to also technology stack like we're having CRM systems consolidating many information. We're having CDPs consolidating all the other. And this is now the point where companies are struggling how to combine the data and without having, let's say, one single reference ID to understand what the data is.
My feeling is sometimes, yes, everybody's on a C-level, everybody's talking about data-driven customer interaction. Yes. We also need to do that. But we don't have any idea about what does it mean in detail. Then somebody comes around the corner and says, you need a CDP. I don't know if you need a CDP or not. So then basically the perception at least is we're going to buy a CDP and everything has been resolved, which is not the case, as you said. Then you have a CDP and everybody asks themselves in the project, okay, what are we going to do with the CDP? Which sort of data sets are we going to put in the CDP, and how can we activate it? How do we use it? What is the use case behind? So basically, first you start. In English, I guess you would say a fool with a tool is still a fool. Since it doesn't help you just to have a tool, as you said, you need to understand what is the business value of data. What is your data strategy? How do you want to activate it? Which sort of use cases? And then at the end, there might also be some tool. And what you've been showing is pretty helpful in terms of saying, how do we get one key identifier to do the stitching and matching of different data sets into one data environment? But before, you really need to be clear is, what are you trying to achieve? What are the use cases? And the fascinating thing for me, at least, Thomas, is people start talking about tools, while the business background, the conceptual business background is still missing, is still lacking. Isn't that crazy? So everybody understands we're going to spend a couple of euros or dollars in tools, but we're still not clear about the business context we're working within.
Yeah, definitely. And this is something companies have to take care on. So they have to analyze the data and define what, first of all, as you said, what is the aim when I want to talk to work with my data, and if the data I'm having is really fitting to what my aim is. So analysis of the data is really the foundation. And also there, we see that many companies have hired data scientists in the last 3 to 5 years, which is coming really more and more popular to really hire people who really try to understand what is in the data the companies are having. By having this, they are defining the use cases and try to solve the use cases out of the data they are having. That's exactly what you say.
Yeah, we got a question probably, Thomas. I might pick up the question. It's good. I'm taking over the role of some sort of moderator and pass the question to you. That's good. And from Tobias, how are companies tackling data cleansing and master data management in global organizations? Besides the central data team at headquarter level, how do they drive data accuracy at entity level in local national markets? So if you have distributed organizations, global organizations, how do you organize it? I guess a key identifier, since the Dun Bradstreet identifier, the DUNS number, is only there once globally. So I have some sort of key identifier also managing global data management, or?
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you have to take care that you have one system who is handling the data. Of course, you can, let's say, set up new clients or accounts from all around the world, but it should be in one system, and then you should be also secure that the system blocks to also put in a record which is already in the system. Yeah, and here, therefore, the DUNS number is really the key, because as you saw on my example, 3 different companies, but identifying, okay, guys, this is really one company. Directly, the system can say, hey, this is one company. You have it already in your system. You don't need to put it in, and directly you have a different view on the data you are having in the systems. And it's not only the master data management. I would like also to point on one more point, because the one thing is to have the right master data, but what is master data? Master data, is it only the address information? Is it the industry information? What is master data? And most of the projects I've been doing is at least you need also a so-called company hierarchy. So to whom belongs the company? Who is the mother company? Who is maybe the highest company in a country? And who is the global company, global leading company? Why? Yeah, why is this information quite important? Because if you have the information, okay, I have the right companies, but how much revenue I'm doing with one group, for example, what are my potentials? Do I have, let's say, what is my penetration in a group? And this is something very valuable. And you also see, okay, am I really, let's say, successful with international companies who are connected to each other, or am I successful with single locations? These are insights you can also find out of the valuable information.
I do think Tobias also trying to address your question from my perspective. We've been done this exercise in a retail organization over the last 6-9 months, and I do think number one is, as Thomas been saying, first get your data strategy clear. Huh? Which sort of data are you trying to use, and how do you want to activate those data sets, and what are the use cases behind? Then derived out of this, developing some sort of data model which is mandatory across the different entities. Yeah? So Thomas, I guess you agree. If you have different data models then in different countries or regions, you will never get the data together. So some things need to be set up mandatory. There's no discussion on that. And this has to do something pretty much with change management. But when it comes to data model, I guess all the fun ends, since everybody needs to sing the same song at the end. And then, as Thomas been saying, if you have a joint data model, then go in the countries. The data management and cleansing and stitching needs pretty much to be done in the local markets, at least from my perspective. Since normally you cannot judge just on the global headquarter level which sort of data sets are most accurate in a certain country. So normally you do have somebody sitting in a local country and do the operational data management jobs in there. But it's an interplay between analytics on global headquarter level and then the operational parts in the countries.
Yeah. And what I would also like to mention is the really importance of the master data, to have the data clear, because all the additional process in a company based on data. So if you want to, let's say, set up also credit limits, if you have multiple entities for the same company, you will also fail and have more risk in your portfolio. So therefore, it's really crucial to have the right master data. And you should also define who is able to also onboard records. So not everyone should be able, and we should have definitely a dedicated department. That's how most of the companies are working. And we should also have required fields which are mandatory. If these fields are not filled in, then the process will stop, will not continue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do think Thomas, what is important is everything we talked so far is not a one-off. Yeah? It's a continuous process. That's the reason why the question from Tobias is extremely good. It's a continuous process. Data cleansing, data matching, mapping is not on once, but it's a continuous process. And I do think we need to understand more how much focus within companies we need to put on data. Data is not just coming from above, from a god who manages the data for us, but really it's a separate unit. For example, E.ON, the utilities company in Germany, they have their own chief data officer being nominated with an organization underneath. Yeah? So we need to have some sort of functions really focusing only on the whole notion of data management.
I can underline. This can I definitely underline.
Cool.
I see here one question referring to what I said, how we are able to identify a company who has visited the website of a company. So I talked about the DUNS number, and by identifying the IP address of a company, we have the opportunity to link the DUNS number to the IP address. And this is something which is really, of course, valuable because, as I already said, we have the IP address of a company. We know which company it is. And based on knowing which company it is, then we can also identify if the company is really in the right target group. Is it interesting for me, or is it not interesting for me? And if it's interesting for me, then of course it's, let's say, the timing aspect that you have to go directly and do the action, because obviously there is a specific need and a specific request from this company, and therefore they have informed on the company website.
All right. Some more, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you both.
Yeah. Also a question, Kim?
I don't have more questions. Thank you very much. Thanks for taking over the Q&A part, you both. I think we don't have any questions left. I think everything is answered for now. Is there anything else, Ralf and Thomas, you would like to say on top?
It's probably just reiterating what you said before. I guess a strong recommendation is getting started with some sort of data strategy. Which sort of data you're trying to collect? What is the business value purpose behind? How do you want to activate those data sets and then build the underlying structure? For example, also using Dun Bradstreet key identifier to get it all together. Number two is it's not a one-off, but it will be a continuous process. Number three is coming back to Tobias' question. It's not like on children's birthday where everybody can hand in his or her wish list, but we need to find some sort of common structures and common data models, basically, also in global organizations. Does it make sense, Thomas, to you?
Definitely, definitely. And we have one additional questions I see in the chat, which says, what are the best practices identified when it comes to the central need of a team of local stewards in the context of indirect costs to be considered? Would they rather have a full FTE or additional tasks. Okay, like job descriptions, sales and marketing.
Mm.
I don't think we can generalize this questions. We have definitely, as you said, Ralph, someone in companies who are really responsible on data, chief data officers. But this is, of course, for companies which are bigger companies and need to have full-time employees on working on data scientists and running projects. But for the most of the companies, there won't be definitely full-time employees. They will have definitely also additional tasks, but the focus should be to have the right data, to have the tasks which are laying on data.
I do think, Thomas, my concern would be if you just have this task, data management, data operations, on top of the role of somebody else. Will he or she then really focus on that? And number two, from a management perspective, if you just put it as an additional task on the desk of somebody who is anyway already fully loaded with other tasks, do you take it serious? Yeah, and sometimes, at least, Tobias, I'm trying to cover your question from this angle. If you need to have something, if you take something serious, then you need to have to put focus on it. Then otherwise, if you don't focus, you don't take it serious. It's just a platitude on a PowerPoint chart. And my strong recommendation would be really to find a signal also within the organization to say we have somebody dedicated, or at least to a certain extent being dedicated on the whole notion of data management. Otherwise, it will just or you're running the danger of just having another platitude on a PowerPoint chart and nothing actually happens.
And my recommendation would be not to have, let's say, this position only in the IT department, because IT guys are talking only structured data. They don't see the content of the data. You need someone who also understands the data.
That's a good point, Thomas. Data management, IT provides the infrastructures, the tools and stuff like that. But really the task of data management has to be driven out of the business. At least I hope we could at least shed some sort of light into this question.
All right.
One more question? Okay. It was a comment from Tobias. Good.
Okay.
Thanks, Tobias.
All right. So I would say thank you very much, Ralph, Thomas. That was very interesting and absolutely clearly presented. And dear audience, as I mentioned before, we will send out the presentation as well as the recording next week. And you will receive a short survey right after the current webinar. And we would be very happy if you could give us your feedback. Okay. I hope we will see us again. And thank you very much. Stay healthy, everyone. And goodbye from my side.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Nice weekend.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.